The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Hello, welcome everyone to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, the 23rd here on Advocate Network. The video now, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario, for the awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues, with some customized changes for our show. That bullhead, damn it, holy shit, it just hit me. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Bufal Various, who is choosing all of our stories for us. Hello, Tara.
Well, hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufal. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like great fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick the toads.
Don't lick the toads. Don't lick the toads. Oh,
don't lick the toads.
Don't lick the toads. That being said, let's jump into the news right away. Our first article comes from ctvnews.ca. And we're going to do a little special treat. Instead of reading the news, we're going to watch the news. And CTV News states conservative MP introduces magic mushroom treatment bill. And this is by Daniel Reach. And we're going to watch this video and then we'll talk about it. Roll that
Tucker
clip.
became aware of psilocybin therapy through a constituent.
Thomas was a constituent of mine. He was given the diagnosis from his doctors that 4 months to live with stage 4 cancer.
Back in 2020, Thomas Hartle became the first person in Canada to legally access magic mushroom therapy for anxiety. It took Health Canada approval.
And his physician prescribed psilocybin counseling, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. And with that counseling, it calmed his anxiety so that his body could fight cancer.
3 years later, Health Canada rescinded the approval. Hartle passed away in 2024. His member of parliament has introduced a private member's bill that would leave prescribing decisions to doctors.
And his government cut him off. Along the same time period, he could have accessed MAID, the same day MAID, applied for it in the morning and got it in the afternoon.
Tucker's bill has the support of others like Josh Vino, an Afghanistan combat veteran with PTSD.
For the first time in nearly 15 years, I felt peace. I was able to finally integrate and solidify everything I had learned through the years of psychotherapy. It didn't erase my trauma. It changed my relationship with it.
Health Canada is awaiting the results of further research into psilocybin. but MPs will have the opportunity to move that process along. Wayne Mantica, CTV News, Regina.
So that's pretty cool. That after they realized that they cut this dude's meds off and he passed, and now they're gonna make it where they can't cut the meds off again. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I happen to know the patient that they're naming the bill after. His name was Thomas Hartle, and he was in fact a patient for many years who suffered with stage 4 cancer. He fought tooth and nail to have access to mushrooms for medicine. And yes, he was in fact cut off, which did have an impact overall on his mental health. And yet it didn't stop him because he continued to seek sources if and when needed. So I'm glad that they're going to introduce this bill that allows more access, and that they hopefully will not be cutting patients off at a 3-year mark, which again, he was benefiting. So why are we cutting someone's medicine off that's working for them? To me, that never made any sense other than they don't want us well. So it's very cool that this bill is being introduced, and hopefully it passes so that more patients can have this access, because we saw what it did for this particular patient. We interviewed him numerous times on Open Your Eye on NOK, and it made all the difference in his diagnosis and in his ability to cope. Even though he did eventually pass, he lived many years beyond what they had predicted he would. And he did so gracefully and happy. I couldn't ask for a better way for someone who's going to die anyways to actually pass away, which is happy and at peace with his diagnosis. So very cool that this is finally coming to fruition for him. And I wish he was here today to see that.
Well, I got a friend of mine that's in terminally ill cancer, and he's been fighting it with cannabis and and psychedelics. And each time he goes into a doctor and he gets a new doctor, he feels like he has to educate them on herbal medicines, because they don't understand that he needs those meds to function as much as what he does right now. And it's not the meds that they're giving him. Yeah.
That's because doctors are not given any courses in any of this. They're taught how to diagnose a condition, and basically the pharmaceutical industry is what teaches them to prescribe things. They don't get like a super lengthy course on every single herb and medication out there. They just learn what drugs they prescribe for what illnesses. And that's what doctors do. So the more education they have in the natural realm, the better that doctor is hopefully going to be as a doctor. And they really should be doing more self-education than what they're currently doing.
Yeah, I agree. And so that brings us to our next article. Our next article comes from the sporereport.com. And the Spore Report says the biggest real-world psychedelic study ever is live now. And it says, we need you for a psychedelic study. And it doesn't say who it's written by, but
no, it doesn't. Most psychedelic research happens in carefully controlled settings, typically screened populations in a clinical setting with standardized doses. This model has given us some of the most compelling mental health data in decades, but it has also inevitably told the only part of the story. So UCSF's Carhart Harris Lab is now investigating the other side of the story, people taking psychedelics outside the lab. The Canopy Project cohort study assessing naturalistic outcomes of psychedelic use is a large-scale real-world study initiative designed to follow people who are planning to take psychedelics in everyday contexts. So if you're planning a psychedelic retreat, a trippy festival, or a cozy journey at home, consider taking part and contributing to the biggest real-world psychedelic study to date. Why real world data matters. Clinical trials are built on constraints. You recruit a homogeneous population, standardize the conditions, and control for everything you can. That's how you establish efficacy. But it also means that the findings from a narrow slice of humanity, often middle aged, often white, often carrying specific diagnosis like treatment resistant depression, what about everyone else? The cannabis team interest in broadening this lens was sharpened by an accidental finding in a previous naturalistic data set. A colleague at Imperial College London analyzed the data and found a significant proportion of participants had reported some form of eating disorder. No clinical trial has ever included this population. When the team ran the analysis, they found that those participants also showed psychological improvement after their psychedelic experience. It was preliminary, but it was the first empirical data of its kind. The problem was that of the original study hadn't been designed with them in mind. There were no measures specific to eating disorder symptoms. Canopy is designed to fix exactly that.
A study that adapts to you. One of the most technically interesting aspects of Canopy is its personalization architecture. When you sign up, the intake process profiles you and routes you into the appropriate measurement set. Someone who indicates they live with anorexia will receive different follow-up measures than someone without an eating disorder. And study generates richer, more specific data on subpopulations that clinical trials have largely ignored. The platform also adapts to much time you're willing to give. The short version involves the baseline surveys before your experience and follow-up around 1 month later. The extended version adds check-ins in 2 days before, so 2 days after, 1 week after, and 6 months after. If the full version feels like too much, you can still scale back. The more complete the data, the more useful the parts. So participation still matters. The sub-study from brain scans to ibogaine. Canopy functions an umbrella structure with several active branches underneath. The most developed is BAPS. This study is currently live and recruiting people who are planning to take psilocybin for the very first time who live in the San Francisco Bay Area. Participants who qualify can come into the lab for fMRI scans before and after their experience wear an EEG device behind the ear during the experience itself. Use an Aura ring for biometric tracking and provided blood and saliva samples. The goal is to whether the brain changes well documented in controlled psilocybin trials are emergent people taking mushrooms in real world settings. A parallel sub-study is being developed around ibogaine. Most existing ibogaine research is focused on people with acute diagnoses such as substance use disorder, traumatic brain injury. The Canopy team is interested in what happens in healthier non-clinical populations who are going to Mexico or similar destinations for ibogaine experience, or whether brain changes comparable to those observed in clinical contexts appear there too. A third strand focus on healthcare utilization behavior. The hypothesis is straightforward one. If psychedelic experiences improve well-being, People may use preventive care more and acute care, emergency rooms, admissions less. This is the kind of outcome metric that the insurance companies' employers will pay attention to. The ORCID study is looking at the specifically in Oregon and Colorado state-regulated programs with potential expansion to ibogaine and other contexts. Wow.
Yeah. The bigger picture. In a recent edition of his newsletter, Robin Carhart Harris says, if you want to understand psychedelics, honestly, we need controlled trials, and we need to study the world as it actually is. The clinical model gives us rigor. The naturalistic model gives us diversity. Canopy is an attempt to build a scientific structure wide enough to hold the real range of human psychedelic experience without pretending that everyone who takes mushroom is doing so under the same conditions with the same intentions. With over 300 signups already in the first week and a growing wait list, newsletter exceeding 5,000, the appetite is clearly there. If you're planning to take a psychedelic in any context, you can learn more and sign up here at that link. One sign up covers all the sub projects. The intake process routes you from there. So if you're interested, click that link, folks, and go check it out. Real world data. I like that.
It's cool. I was thinking that, that's good. And who knows? Maybe they'll see that it's better to open it up. Somebody in their home would rather heal. See, but places can be triggers too. Some people might heal better outside of their home in a different setting.
Right. There's a lot of reasons people are using psychedelics. It's not just, PTSD. It's not just depression. It could be for a lot of different medical reasons or even just personal growth reasons. And all of this needs to be documented in real time because we know that these clinical trials, have shown improvement in these patients, but also that there's a wider variety of patients we could be accessing here that could be benefiting from these medicines. So if we have more data, we have more results.
Well, speaking of data, our state that us puppets are proud to be in has the next article. And this article comes from ktbs.com, and it states Louisiana researchers turn to psychedelics to combat pervasive Caddo Parish meth crisis. And this is written by Crystal Webb.
Yeah, wastewater in Caddo Parish contains some of the highest levels of methamphetamine in the world, according to new research from LSU Health Shreveport. The findings presented in the Caddo Parish Commission this week indicate the illicit stimulant is prevalent across all communities within the parish. Researchers have monitored local wastewater for controlled substances since 2020 and are partnering with regional laboratories to map drug concentrations by zip code. Kevin Murnane, an associate professor at LSU Health Shreveport, said the data reflects heavy human consumption rather than discarded prescription medications. Researchers confirmed this by detecting amphetamine, the chemical byproduct created when the human body metabolizes methamphetamine. Although there are areas that are higher, that every area is high, and some areas are extraordinarily high, Murnane said. So it seems like there's a methamphetamine use happening in every community, in every part of Caddo Parish. LSU health officials emphasize that the public drinking water remains safe. Test results indicate municipal water treatment facilities are successfully removing the substance with no significant drug levels detected in water leaving the plants. Well, that's a good thing.
Right. To address the findings, LSU Health Shreveport is deploying more than $1 million allocated by the Caddo Parish in 2024, derived from an opioid settlement. The funding serves as seed money for 7 research projects and 29 scientist trainees focusing on treatments for substance abuse and post-traumatic stress disorder. One primary study examines the use of psychedelics, including psilocybin, to treat methamphetamine addiction. Early trials have yielded promising results, prompting the Louisiana legislature to unanimously pass the bill supporting the research. The No Local initiative aligns with recent federal action. In April, President Donald Trump signed the executive order to accelerate research into psychedelic therapies. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has also issued fast-track priority review vouchers to incentivize companies to study in substances such as psilocybin and mescaline. Interesting. And that brings us to medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills, so stay tuned for a word from some of our amazing sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles Bufo has chosen making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
Dirty Dave, award-winning cultivator for over 4 decades. Dirty Dave, prized genetics fueled by advanced nutrients, original OG organics. Dirty Dave, award-winning products available at these fine establishments. Ask your shop to carry Dirty Dave. Contact us at dirtiesdoggies@gmail.com.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year, movie nights, spotlights on entertainment, and live on location coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Facebook. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyendinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke signals. Tyendinaga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke Signals,
Go ahead,
Tyendinaga.
hold it in, feel it in your wrist.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Check us out in Tyendinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyendinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Now we get back to the show.
Hey, and we're back from our medication session live here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. Oh shit, what do I press? Hold on. Okay, so our next article comes from KKTV.com, and it states Colorado Psychedelic Church moved from house for the first public facing location in Colorado Springs. Hold on, I got a cookies thing. Okay, founder says congregation has shown grown for about 300 members to 2,500 in just over a year. And this is by Melissa Henry, published on the 11th.
Yeah, so this is really cool. Colorado Springs Church centered around psilocybin mushrooms is settling into its first public-facing location after previously operating out of a single-family home. The Colorado Psychedelic Church recently moved into a strip mall space near North Academy Boulevard and Union Boulevard. Founder Benji, who goes by Tepekowik Des, said the move marks a significant milestone for the organization, which he says has grown rapidly over the past year. He also says several landlords declined to lease space to the church before it secured its current location. This isn't some clandestine operation. We're not operating secretly, the founder said. We're being able to see it from the road. It says we're real and we're safe. 4 neighboring businesses told 11 News they had no concerns about the new tenant. I want people to know that we did not open a drug den in the middle of Colorado Springs, Des says. We opened up a church, and we're actually living what it means to be a church, for people to show up, to find healing, to grow spiritually. While the church now occupies a commercial storefront, emphasize the psychedelic mushrooms are not sold there. Under Colorado law, psilocybin mushrooms must be gifted between adults 21 years of age or older and not sold. We offer them in a few different sizes so that people can connect the experiences they're looking for. The church attracts visitors from across Colorado and beyond, according to Des, who says some attendees travel more than 2 hours to participate in services and events. Of those members is Jack Berry, who is relocating from Iowa to Colorado Springs. I'm literally moving my whole life out here just solely grow mushrooms for the community, Berry said. That's how much I believe in this movement. That's really wild, eh?
It is. It is. Where did we leave off?
Barry. Barry said.
Oh, Barry said his experience with psychedelic mushrooms helped him overcome methamphetamine addiction after treatments failed. I tried traditional route therapy, antidepressant, and those made my life miserable. One session with the magic mushroom completely changed his life. I've never had anything with any withdrawals. I didn't have any urges to do any more drugs. That sent people seeking only access to psychedelic mushrooms are not the church's target group. He said the organization focused mainly on community healing and spiritual growth rather than recreational use. Don't score your mushrooms. Actually go there to go heal. I actually like that philosophy.
That's pretty cool.
So our one, two, three, four. Our fifth article today is from WRALnews.com. WRAL.com. This is the news. Bipartisan North Carolina bill seeks $5.4 million for psychedelic therapy research targeting PTSD. North Carolina lawmakers have introduced Senate Bill 1018, known as the HEAL Act, a bipartisan effort that would allocate $5.4 million to create a task force and grant pilot program for studying psychedelic-assisted therapies. This is written by Grace Aba, WRAL Health Reporter.
Yeah, an effort to pave the way for psychedelic assisted therapy is getting renewed attention in North Carolina. Senate Bill 1018 wouldn't legalize the drugs, allow recreational use, or change North Carolina's current drug laws. Rather, it would create a task force to study psychedelic assisted treatment for use by veterans, first responders, victims of domestic violence, and others living with post-traumatic stress disorder and other trauma-related conditions. The hope, sponsor said, is to prepare the state for the possible legalization of drugs such as psilocybin, a psychedelic ingredient found in magic mushrooms, and MDMA, the active ingredient in ecstasy, for medical use. A small bipartisan group of lawmakers has pursued similar bills in both legislative chambers in recent years, but none of those efforts have advanced. It was unclear if the latest effort would advance. Senate Leader Phil Berger, Republican Rockingham, said Tuesday that he wasn't familiar with the bill. Supporters of the Senate Bill 1018 are hopeful that political support from the Trump administration can help move the proposal forward. President Donald Trump in April signed an executive order directing federal agencies, including the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, to speed research and loosen restrictions on psychedelics. These aren't fringe ideas, North Carolina Representative Alan Chesser, Republican, Nash, said at a news conference on Tuesday. They're on a path to becoming approved medicines. Supporters of the bill point to a high rate of veteran suicide as to why the treatments need to be studied. Even those who didn't make it home fight battles on a daily basis, said Chesser, who introduced a similar bill in the House. And unfortunately, some of us are still losing those battles. Chesser said the medical field has had little success with traditional medicines for treating the type of trauma endured in combat. If we keep doing what we've done, we're going to keep losing the veterans we've sworn to protect, Chesser says. And that's the truth. That's what's happening. That's the reality of life today.
Oh, yeah. Chesser predicts the FDA will approve psychedelic treatments to use in the near future. The question is whether North Carolina will be ready when the treatments arrive, he said. If approved, the North Carolina bill will one-time funding up to $5.4 million for research into psychedelic-assisted therapies. The bill seeks $5 million in non-recurring funds that would be deposited into a research grant program. The remaining $400,000 would be used for administrative costs. We need more funding in order to do more work, Chappell Hill psychiatrist Robert McClure said during the news conference at the state legislative building. McClure called the bill a good first step toward better understanding the benefits and risks of the drugs. How long does it last? Is the same. What dose should we use? What dose should we use? McClure said. There are all basic things that we'd have to know before we bring those into clinical practice. PTSD is a psychiatric condition that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event or a series of traumatic events. This is not a radical liberal idea, and it does not belong to one party and the other, Shelter said. Since Sophia Shitlick, Dee Durham, and Bob Brinson are Buford, Craven, and Lenore are sponsors of the bill. Brinson is an Army veteran. The bill makes us a real investment in mental health innovation, research, access. The people of our state, Brinson said. After 25 years of war, we know that every veteran is broken. We also know that for veterans who do need help, no single treatment works for everyone. Shitlick said she's heard from constituents who have had to seek psychedelic therapy in other countries. Veterans give everything to defend our country and some of the most severe wounds, and they come back with are most invisible to most of us. But they are not invisible to their loved ones, Shitlick said. And today I'm proud to say that these wounds are no longer invisible to their legislators. Sally Roberts, a world-class wrestler and Army combat veteran, said Tuesday that she has to go to Mexico for a hallucinogen treatment that's not legal in the U.S., Roberts said it saved her life. Roberts said Tuesday she developed PTSD after being abducted and raped when she was 5 years old. The aftermath left me shattered, she said. Roberts had stress anxiety during the pandemic, so she visited the Department of Veterans Affairs. I was encouraged with tips and tricks to get my brain to report. Newfound memory loss, Roberts said. Roberts said she had a well-unprocessed anger that became too much. My first experience was with psilocybin. That softened me in a way that nothing else had, Roberts said. It cracked me up. I felt love for the first time. Roberts said no grief sank in. She tried Ibogaine for treatment. It healed my mind, Roberts said. It healed my heart. And there was a if get help thing here. But yeah, wow. That's really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Wow. And that brings us right to our sixth article. And this comes from biospace.com. And it states, despite FDA trial clearance, Ibogaine metabolite won't receive red carpet treatment. And this is written by Gabriel Mason.
Yeah, DermRx is launching the first U.S. clinical trial of an Ibogaine-derived drug candidate, marking a pivotal moment for a controversial psychedelic long-cited by safety concerns. With new federal support for psychedelic therapies, Ibogaine has entered the spotlight, but the drug's unclear mechanism and history of potentially fatal cardiotoxicity poses significant risks for drug developers. At DermRx, executives are banking on a better safety profile for active metabolite Ibogaine, which in late April was cleared by the FDA for the first in-human testing in the U.S. I'm flipping ecstatic. Our DermRx and founder Deborah Mash told Biospace at the time, we're primed and ready to go with plans to launch a phase 2 trial in alcohol use disorder early next year. The federal approval follows growing momentum in states such as Texas, Mississippi, West Virginia, Oklahoma, and Tennessee that had introduced laws to support ibogaine clinical trials. And just days before DermRx received the FDA go-ahead, President Donald Trump signed an executive order aimed at accelerating the development of psychedelic therapies for serious mental health conditions. Compass Pathways, USONA Institute, and Transcend Therapeutics each ended up with the FDA Commissioner's National Priority Vouchers, which shorten review periods from as long as a year to just a month or two for psychedelic drugs in late stage development. By contrast, no ibogaine derivative has been tested in humans in the US before. Sourced from an African shrub, ibogaine has historically been used by indigenous people in West Central Africa. The drug's effects vary, but the most intensive psychoactive experience generally lasts 24 to 36 hours. Like other psychedelics, ibogaine is thought to promote neuroplasticity and garner the attention for potential use in veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury, as well as for substance use disorders. And I mean, yes, it does in fact have cardiotoxicity, which is why medical tests need to be performed to ensure that the patient is stable for the use of this medicine. But beyond that, it's been used quite safely by these shaman and other facilitators around the world right now who are helping people behind the scenes, because we're dealing with all this political like yays and nays, right?
Oh yeah, where did we leave off? Rogan said
ibogaine.
Oh, ibogaine has attracted significant attention, particularly from political right. The executive order came shortly after podcaster Joe Rogan shared information with Trump about ibogaine's potential benefits for opioid use disorder, Pun said. Rogan said he first learned about ibogaine's potential for treating addiction in veterans. From a friend involved in the ibogaine initiative. He then discussed the drug on several podcast episodes and ultimately texted Trump some of the evidence of its efficacy. According to Rogan, Trump responded, "Sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it." Not long after, Rogan appeared in the Oval Office standing behind the president as he signed the executive on psychedelics. In addition to directing the FDA to issue CNPVs for psychedelic assets, the order instructed the regulator, as well as the Drug Enforcement Administration, to develop a pathway under the Right to Try Act for eligible patients to access psychedelic drugs, ibogaine, including ibogaine compounds. Oof. But besides the potential benefits, ibogaine also known for neurotoxic and cardiotoxic benefits, effects, which can be associated with severe complications and even death. As of 2022, 33 deaths after ibogaine has been recorded in published literature. It's very risky. There's a reason why none of the drug companies that we cover have brought something like this forward. It's because of safety concerns. Patrick Chucho, biotech analyst and managing director, H.C. Hainwright, told Biospace. While ibogaine's safety profile has kept investors and scientists at bay, DemeRx RX is developing a primary metabolite of the drug that company says isn't associated with any psychoactive effects, dubbed norbogaine. The compound lacks trip effects of ibogaine and reduces the safety risks, according to DemeRx. The biotech aims to prove norelbogaine safer profile in the alcohol interaction trial that were run slightly ahead of phase 2 study in alcohol use disorder. While these results are still some time away, the president's spotlight has moved the investor base for the approach, CEO Mash said, pointing to an inflection of incoming investor interest in Demarax the week following the executive order. Company plans to raise $25 million in a Series B financing set to close this quarter. Cash will fuel the two upcoming trials with the mid-stage launch for the nearly next year. Mayer said ultimately biotech considers Norvagaine a potential pipeline in a drug asset, gives a potential antidepressant, anti-anxiety effects with plans to launch phase 3 trials 2028. Well, the federal policy shift made the end. It's a regulatory free pass. Patrick Trebekio, biotech analyst and managing director, told Biospace, new drug clearance is the first step. It proves the drug is safe, effective. For an ibogaine analog, the first key milestone is phase 1 trial safety, especially cardiac safety. We're not lowering the evidentiary bar, he said, the FDA. Companies are still going to run phase 1, 2, and 3 trials. They're not going to be some sort of red carpet rolled out. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, they're not lowering the evidentiary bar, he said, of the FDA. These companies are still going to have to run phase 1, 2, and 3 trials. There's not going to be some sort of red carpet rolled out. And I agree. I mean, nothing should be red carpeted out without proper trials. And that includes, medications, jabs, all that sort of stuff. Those all need to be researched. And I get it. It's cool that they're allowing the research to happen, though. Baggage and fear. The biggest safety concerns with ibogaine is heart damage or dysfunction, also known as cardiotoxicity. The most reported adverse effects tied to ibogaine are often marked QT interval prolongation, a delay in the heart's electrical reset after each beat, and the malignant ventricular arrhythmias, which are life-threatening abnormal arrhythmias, according to a recent study published in Molecules. The drug's toxicity profile has created baggage and fear. Dilibor Sames, a chemistry professor at Columbia University with more than 20 years of ibogaine research under his belt, said in an interview, "I think that's why ibogaine was really treated separately from other psychedelics, and it has not really progressed." Nash was trying to get ibogaine into the clinic for years, even receiving the FDA go-ahead to run the first clinical trial of the drug in 1993, but the company had to abandon its U.S. effort after struggling to raise enough money. The funding did not materialize, and one of the major reasons, I think, is the fear of the adverse effects, Sames said. Already in the business of ibogaine treatment, Mexico-based Beyond takes the safety concerns very seriously. Before a patient is approved for therapy, the company collects detailed medical records and runs a variety of lab tests, founder and CEO Tom Fiegel explained. Once the patient gets the green light and arrives at the clinic, Beyond runs all the tests again before beginning treatment. And that's what we call doing due diligence. That's so important, especially operating outside the normal realms, I guess, as facilitators. They need to be doing their due diligence with this drug, but they're having success, and they're not having people keeling over at every ceremony either, because they're doing their due diligence. Then during the acute phase of ibogaine experience, patients are hooked up to an EKG, blood pressure cuff, and pulsometer, plus an IV with electrolytes, principally of magnesium and potassium, to help mitigate cardiac risks. The CEO continued, these protocols stay in place for at least 12 hours after biomarkers have returned to baseline. ibogaine has to be delivered in a therapeutic manner that requires a high standard of care in a hospital-grade environment, Fegel said. I don't think that that's up for debate at all. I know even within the legacy realm of facilitators, they all agree that this needs to be taken seriously. Like, tests need to be run, patients need to be properly monitored for safety. But if it's done this way, it is safe and patients are benefiting.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So making a safer medicine, while Joe Rogan promoted ibogaine likely won't take flight with U.S. regulators anytime soon, its analogs may offer a more viable path to market. That's the hope of Dermarex as it advances norbogaine to the clinic. We know that many of the beneficial after effects of ibogaine are likely due to the active metabolite, Mash said, meaning norbogaine should still carry the same therapeutic value, but it doesn't have the same observed psychedelic effect, she explained. Norbogaine is simple. Norbogaine is not a hallucinogen. It's not metabolized. It's very safe and well tolerated. In addition to preclinical studies, MASH pointed to a phase 1 study of the drug that Dermarex recently completed in the UK for alcohol use disorder. In the multiple ascending dose trial of 55 healthy volunteers, norbogaine was safe and well tolerated, according to Dermarex. The drug did show a dose-related increase in corrected QT interval, but the effect wasn't large enough to be considered clinically relevant, the company said. It's all dose related. Any QT, MASH related. There are plenty of QT prolonging drugs that are approved for use, she said, citing methadone, which was approved to treat chronic pain and opioid use disorder and is known for extending the QT interval. Interesting. Not all researchers agree that norbogaine is safer than ibogaine itself. However, in a 2016 analysis published in Clinical Toxicity, found that norbogaine may carry less neurotoxicity risk than plant-derived compound, but is at least as harmful to cardiac functioning, in part because it remains in the system for days, much longer than ibogaine does. In a separate 2016 study, norbogaine to be well tolerated in opioid-dependent patients, with the most frequent treatment emergent adverse events being changes in light perception, headache, and nausea. Wow.
Yeah, the reality is that norbogaine is extremely understudied. We see that complementary in part because we never been able to study them separately. Fiegel said of ibogaine and norbogaine, or noribogaine, what it seems to be there will be opportunities to study noribogaine as the primary substance, as we'll see how that creates a different therapeutic model, or if it does at all. To advance the in-clinic U.S. studies, we'll have to demonstrate clean data with manageable cardiac safety profile, Trujillo said. The FDA's primary concern is safety, Trujillo continued. If there's a signal like this cardiotoxic signal that causes death, I can't even envision a scenario where the FDA approves that drug. Moreover, he added, if safer psychedelic or neuropsychiatric treatments become available, such as Compass Pathways' late-stage synthetic form of psilocybin or Definium Therapeutics' lizard-guide tartrate, ibogaine and its analogs, they fall to the wayside. These are ready for a safety perspective, much more favorable compounds, Trujillo pointed out. That said, if an ibogaine analog can slash QT liability, avoid serious arrhythmia risk, temper the acute experience, and still show efficacy, he continued, that would be a much more investable path. Psychedelics tailwinds could buy Ibogaine chances. While it may be a long road for noribogaine or any other ibogaine derivatives, the recent executive order signals that FDA and the broader federal government are open to seeing psychedelic and psychedelic adjacent medicines advance for serious neuropsychiatric conditions, Trujillo said. Plus, the FDA's policy shift may also encourage more investment in those more research and development in the space. While there are psychedelics deeper in the clinic and the noribogaine, biopharma's R&D efforts in the field are still relatively new. The real work of optimization hasn't really been done on psychedelics because they've been illegal for so long, Trujillo said. The holy grail of psychedelic development would be circumnavigating the trip while still gaining the therapeutic benefit, Trujillo said. How do we get the most efficacy with the fewest side effects? For the same, Ibogaine presents both a formidable change and significant opportunity. He views the drug as parent with drug developers created many children that make up the whole category of therapeutics. Noribogaine is one of the few existing children. Another lives at Gigamesh Pharmaceuticals and Neuroscience Biotech Sames helped form. The company, which recently executed a deal with AbbVie, is developing a preclinical cardiac-safe ibogaine analog called GM3009 for substance use disorders, PTSD, and TBI. It's structurally very similar to noribogaine and ibogaine, Same said, adding that early studies in cultured human cardiac sites suggest the drug may bypass ibogaine's cardiac risk. Gigamesh is continuing to refine its development process with the possibility of creating many more generations of the candidate. It's a learning experience, Sam said, and it really is a novel molecular entity. Huh. This has been updated. Okay. Huh. I like that. That's good. So they made a good point with the pharmaceuticals. If these companies come out with stuff, they're gonna put the other shit on the back burner because now they're like, oh, here's your mushrooms, here's the synthetic stuff.
Yeah, lots of research happening. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of bastardize each psychedelic and take little bits and pieces of it, and whether it'll actually work the same as the whole compound itself. That's what I'd like to see, because we know when you start stripping away things, it doesn't necessarily act the same, right? Which means the benefits aren't going to be necessarily the same. So we'll see how these research trials come out.
Yes. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on Non-OK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcasts on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
That's right, folks. We hope you enjoyed your update today of mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint hosts, Tara Simpson, and to Bufo of Various, and Kim Cooper in the back smoking dabs. Bufo, wait, he chose our stories. Kim produced the show. Tara was beautiful on the stage reading. And to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out. Good night! Looking out
find myself reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the